What's up? Welcome into my ultimate Void Hunter support build for Grandmaster Nightfalls. This build is for the absolute hardest PvE content in Destiny 2 and will help you and your team stay alive with infinite invisibility and damage resistance, along with a bunch of buffs and debuffs and champion stopping power. This is one of my absolute favorites to run in Grandmasters. I built this around the Omnioculus, and here's my reasoning for Omnioculus. What this does is you get 2 smoke bomb charges, and then you can use them both for Trapper's Ambush, activate Quick Fall to spend your melee charge and dive to the ground, creating a large smoke cloud on impact, which then dissipates. Targets caught in the cloud are weakened, and allies are made invisible. What happens when you use this ability without Omnioculus equipped? Let's throw something random on. You only have 1 charge of the melee. You can still make everybody invisible, but you do not get any melee ability back, making your team invisible. So with Omnioculus equipped and you do a quick fall, you make your team invisible, but also you get back your full melee. As long as your teammates are visible when you do the quick fall, you have to wait for them to come undone and then make them go invisible again. You can do this forever. It's normally around 2 seconds of the void invisibility right there. 3 or 2. 3. But if they're already invisible when you do it, like this guy's already invisible, try to do it again, it does not refund my melee. See there, I ran out of melee. But they're both visible. Boom, I get the whole thing refunded, but if I try to do it too early, I lose it. So what really makes this great is you get unlimited invisibility if used right, and resist ×4, which is a lot of damage resistance. And if you mess up, you have a second bomb charge already. So all that combined, I think is totally worth it to run this over something else like a Gyre Falcon, which is really good. It can be great in GMs too, but this is ultimate support safety for your team. This will keep you all alive in the hardest of hardest stuff. This is a team carrying build. Let's look at the subclass, how I make this all work together. You can either go with Mobius Quiver or with Deadfall. It kind of depends on the Grandmaster. If there's a ton of adds, then I typically like to use Deadfall to suppress everybody in the room, and it lasts a long time, and it's a big damage boost to the whole team. But if there's not a bunch of adds that we're worried about and we need to burn the boss faster, then I like Mobius Quiver because that does more damage. It's 2 shots instead of 1 with Deadfall, and it does a lot of damage really fast, which I like. And as for the abilities, Gambler's Dodge, just to ensure that you can get that melee recharge back and do more quick falls in case you mess up and lose your quick falls. This just makes sure that you can always go invisible when you want to. There's no other option but Snare Bomb. And then for the grenade, I like to use Vortex Grenade because it does a lot of damage and it pulls all the little adds into one single spot that you can just nuke, kill everything at the same time. For the aspects, Trapper's Ambush, I already went over that a little bit. This is a super important part of the build with Omnioculus. And then Vanishing Step, dodging makes you invisible. This kind of goes hand in hand with Gambler's Dodge. These two together, you dodge, it makes you go invisible, and then you have another Trapper's Ambush, which can make you invisible again. And if you make your teammates invisible, you get your melee back, and you can make more people invisible. It just kind of is a loop to constantly be invisible, and while you're invisible with Omnioculus, you got ×4 resistance. Then as far as the fragments, Echo of Persistence to make your invisibility, overshield, and devour have increased duration, which on this build we have all 3 of those: invisibility, overshield, and devour. Echo of Starvation, picking up a void breach or an orb of power, grants devour. Devour gets you full health when you pick up an orb or a void breach, or on subsequent kills while you have devour procced. It is super strong in in-game. Then Echo of Obscurity, finish your final blows, grant invisibility. This is just leaning into the invisibility even more. Keep you safe, keep you alive, and therefore keep your team alive and keep your team safe. Then Echo of Dilation, really this is just for the +10 mobility. The only other thing that I would switch this out for might be Undermining, but I don't really have enough discipline to make this worth it. And with as many quick falls as I can do with this build, I can basically make anything weak I want to. So losing the -20 discipline isn't really worth it to me to make my grenades weaken things too, because if I want to weaken something, I'll just quick fall them. You could also switch this out for Remnants if you want your grenade to last a little bit longer, which could help, but I just like the mobility. Then as for the mods, Heavy Ammo Finder to make sure I always got heavy ammo, Powerful Friends, collecting an orb of power causes nearby allies to increase their current armor charge. This is really valuable in GMs just to help your teammates out. The other option that I would use on this would be Heavy Ammo Scout to help your teammates find more heavy ammo, depending on what your teammates value more for their builds, if it's heavy ammo or if it's armor charges. You can kind of ask them, see which one they want you to run. And then Void Siphon, getting a lot of void kills with this build. This will make orbs. On the gloves, I have Font of Focus because I have really low discipline on this build. This is plus 30 discipline when you have an armor charge. So I got 70 discipline really with this. Impact Induction, causing damage with a melee attack, reduces your grenade cooldown. And Momentum Transfer, causing damage with a grenade, reduces your melee cooldown. These kind of go together to just keep a loop of your abilities. Then on my chest piece, whatever resistance the activity calls for. So if there's a threat of solar, then I would use a solar resistance. If there's a threat of arc, I would use arc resistance. And the resistances are honestly more important than having void reserves, but if I can fit it, I'll run a reserve of whatever heavy I'm using. And I really like Concussive Dampener, especially in Grandmasters where splash damage can kill you so easily. I find Concussive Dampener is probably the most valuable resistance mod in Grandmasters. So I would value this over all other resistance mods. And then on the boots, stacks on stacks, picking up an orb of power grants you 1 additional armor charge. This just helps your surges and your Font of Focus last longer, get more benefit out of them. And then 2 void weapon surges. Typically on a lot of builds, I'll run recuperation, and if I can fit it better already, those don't have any benefit in this build because we're running Devour and have Devour up a lot of the times, and Devour does this already for you, gives you full health. So therefore, I'm going to run void weapon surges, which 2 of these stacked together gives you 17% more damage on your void weapons. And then on the cloak, proximity ward, gain a powerful overshield while performing your finisher. What I like about this is I can be invisible from all my skills and melee and stuff, and then go in for a finisher. While I'm doing the finisher, I have an overshield. Then as soon as I finish the finisher, I go invisible from Echo of Obscurity. So this kind of makes the loop just way more safe to finish things because I go from invisibility to finishing back to invisibility right away. And then Outreach, reduce melee cooldown when using your class ability. With Gambler's Dodge, you already get 1 melee back. This gives you a little extra melee energy in case you're out of both of your melee charges. Then you get 1 back with Gambler's Dodge and a little bit more with Outreach. So this you really could change out for whatever. If you want Bomber to get your grenade cooldown a little more, or one of the finisher things, this is really interchangeable with whatever you want to run. And then Time Dilation, your decaying armor charge has longer duration, which just helps you keep those surge mods up and the Font of Focus up. And then on the artifact, my main weapon with this build right now is an auto rifle. So I got anti-barrier auto rifle going, which also overcharges it and gives it 25% more damage. And this overcharge stacks with the leg surge mods. So we get 25% damage from overcharge and 17% damage from the surge mods on the legs. So that's irregardless of whether it's a void surge week or not. Along with some of these overcharge and champion perks, I took authorized mods void to reduce the cost of void mods and reduce the cost of melee mods here. And then Unto the Breach, defeating a void debuff target creates a void breach while your void subclass is equipped. That goes hand in hand with protective breach. Picking up a void breach gives you an overshield or refreshes your existing overshield. So when you pick up a void breach on this build, you get an overshield and you start Devour. So you get full health and an overshield, and then you can keep your health up with Devour by just getting kills. And when you're getting kills of void debuffed things, you're making more void breaches, which is making more overshields. Those just kind of go back together, especially with this build. Then on countercharge, gain a stack of armor charge when you stun a champion, which you'll be doing a ton of with this. Supernova, picking up a void breach, causes your next source of void damage to create a large weakening pulse. Will just help you weaken more enemies. Squad goals. Performing a finisher while you have Devour grants Devour to nearby allies when your Void subclass is equipped. Giving your teammates Devour when they're not on a Void subclass is crazy. It's so good. To give Devour to an Arc Titan is just crazy to me. And they'll be able to keep that up just by getting kills. And since it's so safe on this build to do finishers, you can just keep rolling finisher to finisher to finisher and give all your teammates Devour. It's super, super helpful. And then as for the weapons, there's a lot of options you can do with the Void Hunter. But what I like to run is this age-old Bond auto rifle with the repulsor brace destabilizing rounds. You can get this from the Last Wish raid, and really it goes hand in hand with Unto the Breach protective breach because they just really stack on top of each other. So you always have debuff targets, which includes volatile and repulsor brace. So you get an overshield from picking up void breaches, but also an overshield from killing void debuff targets. There's a lot of overshield, a lot of safety, and it gets that 25% damage buff and the 17% from void weapon surge on the legs. And then to pair alongside of that, this takes care of barriers. I like Riptide with Chill Clip because it takes care of overload with stasis slow with 1 shot, and it takes care of unstoppable with 2 shots from the shatter. So with just these 2 weapons, you take care of all 3 champions and you're ready to go for any Grandmaster Nightfall. And then for the heavy weapon, there's a lot to choose from. I typically like to run something void just because I already have the weapon surge on my legs. But if there's some sort of other overcharge, like if it's solar overcharge, then you could easily run a solar rocket like Apex Predator with reconstruction bait and switch, or Gallahorn if your team's running rockets to just help buff your team up. But Leviathan's Breath does a ton of damage right now. It's really good. Also takes care of unstoppable champions. Some other options that are really great in case you want to run something different than Riptide, like if you want to run Wither Horde or Arbalist or something like that up here, or a disorienting grenade up here, you can run Retrofit Escapade, which is really great for Grandmasters, taking care of a lot of ads but also doing good damage on bosses. Hothead is great in almost any situation. Wendigo with Explosive Light is really good high damage if it's an arc surge. But if you're looking to stay with void weapons, which I typically like to do, then it's Leviathan's Breath, Retrofit Escapade, or Taipan. Or there is Red Herring in case one of your teammates is running Gallahorn. But really with this build, it's more of a support build, so I'm totally cool running Gallahorn and buffing my teammates. But if I were to do this, I might switch out these Void Surge mods. I might trade out stacks on stacks and run a solar weapon surge and a void. That way I can at least get 10% more damage on my Gallahorn. And I'm only losing 1 armor charge by getting rid of stacks on stacks. So it's not that big a deal. And then if I were to also do that, I'd probably switch this out for just harmonic resistance or something else. That's the build. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Catch you on the next one. Peace.
Guardian down.